welcome back. It feels like forever since I last sat down to film, and that's because I've basically been away from YouTube for most of the summer. So life has been busy in all sorts of ways. So I had work commitments, I took some time off for myself, I had a proper vacation, and then as it happens, a few family emergencies came up that brought me back to my hometown for a while. So it's been a mix of everything. And now, as I am about to go back to work again, I finally have a moment to sit down and share what's been going on in my tarot world these past few months. This summer, I traveled quite a bit. First off, just some updates. So I spent time in Ireland and Spain. In Ireland, I finally got to see the Atlantic Way, which had been on my list for so long. It was breathtaking and one of those places that stay with you. And in Spain, of course, I had to go to the sea because to me, there's no real summer without the ocean, without the salty breeze and the sound of the waves. So naturally, I didn't bring my whole tarot collection with me. Just a few decks that I thought would be enough to keep me company wherever I was. That's already one big reason why some of my decks didn't get any use this summer, so they simply weren't with me. And then there's the other reason, which honestly surprised me, because the decks I ended up using were not the ones I thought I would. And at the beginning of the summer, I had both a few decks that felt like they would be perfect for the season, really in tune with the summer energy. And I was so sure this would be my go-to, but things turned out differently. Instead, I reached for decks I didn't expect to use or not during the summer, and they really carried me through the summer in the wrong way. So some of those so-called summer decks, for me, ended up untouched, while others I didn't plan to use at all became the ones I leaned on. And there were even a couple of decks that I thought would be more of an autumn thing, darker, moodier, and yet somehow they slipped into my summer rotation and worked surprisingly well. So today I want to take you through that journey, which decks I actually used, which ones I thought I'd use but didn't, and then the unexpected surprises that showed up along the way. Let's go! Let's start with the first deck I want to talk about. This is the Sirena Tarot by Mr. Freeborg. A summer deck I actually got secondhand, but I ended up using it well before summer even started. So let's take a moment to appreciate the beauty also of this box. This is the book that comes with it. It has a magnetic closure. This deck is really unique because of its beauty and the color palette. Look at this. It's something that I really adore in this deck. The colors are, such a strong part of what draws me in here. The way also the bodies are presented is inspired by classical beauty. So let's see if I can find, you see some good examples. This is inside the box. Yeah, there is nudity in this deck, but it's hard, it's classical art. So the bodies are inspired by classical beauty, as I was saying, like the kind of, ancient Greek ideal. I think I read somewhere that Mr. Freeborg had in mind when creating, this deck. So the theme is obviously maritime, I don't know, with mermaids and as the main focus, of course. Now, I wouldn't call myself a mermaid fanatic at all because I'm not obsessed with mermaids, nothing like that. But this deck is one that I really love because of the combination of what I mentioned. So the artistry, the colors, and the composition. Look at the beautiful colors. So maybe they are slightly darker on camera, but they are these beautiful pink hues, and yeah. And being a fan, you know, of classical art, by the way, I can see a lot of the things I like reflected here. This hermit is slightly creepy for me, but I would give this deck an 8 out of a 10, maybe also a 10 out of 10, but I mean, it's really unique. It reads very well. It gives clear messages. It's not a complicated deck. And I even use it for client readings. This one got some use, but just more in the beginning of the summer, not really during the summer as I had planned. So did I stick to the plan? Not completely. So this is the Sirena Tarot. Moving on to deck number 2. This one I was already drawn to just because of the name, the Marea Tarot. Marea, you know, is like, it's the waves, you know, in Italian. So the creator, I believe, maybe is Italian, I don't know, but this deck came from Italy when I ordered it. It's a limited edition available on Etsy. The box is really cute. It feels like a sort of plastic linen too. Okay, this is the chunky guidebook that comes with it, with color images also. This one, it's a limited edition available on Etsy. It's a thought deck. Now, I am not a thought expert, not even a fan, but what really convinced me to get this deck, and actually now I have just 2 thought decks. One is the Thought Nebula by Novamundi, and the other is this one. But what really convinced me to get this deck is the beauty and the use of the colors too, because some of the cards literally take my breath away, and not so much the majors. Also this little kid is a bit creepy for me, but I love the colors, especially the minors. So let me find something. Oh, this is the Ace of Wands. Very powerful, yes. Cards like this one, you know. Oh, the 7 of Pentacles. Yeah, cards like this. So some of the cards literally take my breath away, as I was saying. The contrast also between the warm and cool tones, you know, plus some darker, also moodier shades, but really speaks to me. I'd love to go deeper into this deck, but the truth is I haven't really worked with it. For me, it's also an 8 out of 10. It can be a 10 out of 10. I mean, I like all my decks, of course, but just to say, so there is something that draws me in. Look at this one. And there is something that I'm a little bit like hesitant, maybe. The information contained in the guidebook also is very precise, sometimes even a little bit technical. It really dives into the symbolism, including the Kabbalah, and I don't know much about this. It's quite heavy for a summer mood, I think. So when I really needed, what I really needed was something lighter, more immediate. Also, this is a very, you know, it's quite a study deck, so I needed something easier maybe to work with, even though some shades like the blues here that really gives me summer vibes, you know. But so did I use it this summer as I planned to? No, I didn't. Again, love these cards. The cups in particular I really love in this deck. So no, I didn't, and but I plan to. So this is the Marea Tarot. The third deck I had planned to work with is the Bond Sequitur first edition. This is a limited edition, actually. There are only 333 copies. Mine is 196. All art and words are by Zephyr Fotenhauer. She's the creator of this deck. I have to thank Carrie from Coffee and Cards because I discovered it through her channel. What makes this deck stand out is a lot of things. So this is the little white book, and there are also color pictures here. It's very interesting. What makes this deck stand out are a lot of things. Look at the backs first thing. They're so pretty. As you can see, It's square shape. The colors also make it very unique. There is a limited palette of primary colors. As you can see, magenta, blue, and yellow. And also the illustrations, which are very distinctive. So this is a very, very unique deck. Look at this Three of Cups. It's also it looks fun, you know? It looks like a lighter deck, maybe a deck that can give you maybe like lighter readings. But there's also the story behind the creator, you know, Zephyr Pfotenhauer, who she says also on her website, look at this Ten of Cups. She lost her partner and then created this deck out of grief, which maybe you couldn't tell. As often happens, creation comes from pain. I love this Six of Cups. But the result is an extremely brilliant deck that almost looks light at first glance, you know. I also love this word card with this like feminine organ, you know, so it looks like a light deck, you know, a fun deck or something like that, but the impression I get is that it carries complex emotions in its folds, and it's definitely not a deck to take lightly. So again, just for the palette, I thought, okay, this is a summer deck. I'm going to read with it this summer. It gives me the vibes, you know. So, but I didn't. So I think it could even just remain a collectible at this point, because I'm not sure if I want to use it or ruin it by shuffling it. I did 2 readings actually with it at the start, and they were pretty intense. So you wouldn't necessarily guess that just by looking at it, you know. It doesn't seem like a heavy deck, but I guess it's for the emotions maybe this deck was born from, you know. It mostly stayed on my shelf, by the way, or rather on my table at home while it was away. It's a beautiful deck, but did I use it for summer as I thought I would? No, it didn't happen that way. So this is the beautiful and unique Bones Sequitur Tarot. Moving on to the next decks. So the 4th deck I want to mention is one I have already talked about before, the Serpentfire Commemorative Edition. I had really hoped to dive into it more this summer. Please look at the backs. These are gorgeous. To explore it and spend some proper time with it. But the truth is, I didn't get around to it, and I keep wondering, will its moment come? Again, nudity alert on this deck. It's also a photographic deck in part, you know, so there are just, you know, some photographs, but usually in summer I tend to use the Radiant Wilds a lot. So it's a mass market deck, if you know that deck. I don't have it here, but I love its guidebook. It's really well done. Surprisingly, you know, the Radiant Wilds is very often compared to this one. It's like the mass market counterpart, just because of the palette a little bit and the overall vibe of the deck with all these oranges and pinks, and also the palette. The colors are very similar. So surprisingly, I didn't use the Radiant Wilds this summer either. In a way, it's just been sitting on the shelf. And I did a few readings also with this, and for this one, you know, the same. So I did a few readings with it when it first arrived, and it felt very gentle, I have to say, supportive. Even though at first glance, it might not look like it. But right now, honestly, I am more drawn to moodier, darker autumnal decks already. I've already pulled out my autumn collection, which I'll show you in a video soon. But this one has a very lively palette with magentas, again, and oranges. There's also a lot of black, you know, but it's also a very warm deck now. It also has this kind of desert theme, a lot of geometric, you know, patterns, a lot of blues and purples as well. By the way, it has a lively palette, not to mention also the beautiful geometry, as I was saying, and the depiction also of female figures, so it's also a feminine deck. but it's a deck that still has a lot to offer. This is Frida Kahlo, so for sure, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. But did I use it this summer as I planned to? No. So again, this is another plan that has failed because I haven't reached for this one, and it hasn't traveled with me. It just stayed on the shelf, on the table. So this is the Radiant, this is the Serpentfire Commemorative Edition. The other deck I want to talk about for a moment is an oracle, actually, is the Runners of the Sun Oracle. I mean, just look at the box. So it's bright lemon yellow. Doesn't it scream summer already? So I had actually used it a lot in spring. It was one of my spring decks, so check out that video because it's full of, it's holographic too. It's full of flowers. There's even a cow, which is my favorite animal. There are fruit, raspberries, you know, as you can see here. So it was perfect for spring. It gives off this playful, sunny vibe too, especially because of the yellow of the font. Also, it gives off this sunny vibe. But in summer, I didn't really use it again, except in a sporadic pairing with my Lioness Oracle Tarot, because these two pair really well together, and in a certain sense it was a pairing that worked for me. They really do look cute together, and I can show you also in a moment. So again, let me show you. This is my beloved Lioness Oracle Tarot. I use it all the time. This also traveled with me, but since I mentioned this deck all the time, I don't want to talk about it too much. If you're new to my channel, just know that I mention this deck basically in every video, so you may be tired of it, you know. But I mean, if you're new, of course, it's something new for you. But if you're not new, then you probably already know. So I just want to show you how these two pair together. So yeah. But again, I really used this pair in the very beginning of the summer, and then the Lioness Oracle Tarot traveled with me, but then the Runners of the Sun didn't. So while I explored this pairing some months ago, then I didn't continue with this, but this looks so pretty. I think I will, you know. This is also perfect, I think, for now, and like for, you know, you don't really need a season to pair your decks, but just some pairings, of course, at least for me, they give off like a certain vibe, and this could be summer, you know. But I can totally see you working with this pairing also, for example, now in early autumn. So yeah, I mean, they are so pretty together. They pair so well, and they read so well together. Yeah, so I mean, but did I use this pair then all throughout summer? So was I consistent with it? No, I wasn't. So I just worked with these decks, you know, more in June, early summer, and then something changed. So let's move on. Of course, as I said, this one traveled with me, so I was consistent, like I'm always with my Lioness Oracle Tarot, just because I can't get enough of this deck. This is my favorite one. If I had to keep just one in my collection, would be this one probably. So what did I use instead? So that's the question. That brings me to the next two decks. What did I use more consistently also as a pairing is the Wildlands Tarot with the Glyphs Sacred Symbols Oracle. Now, this Oracle deck really surprised me because I had thought this is it's a new purchase for me, it's a new acquisition. I had thought I'd use it more in autumn, but I ended up using it all summer. Look at the beautiful box. This is also the beautiful guidebook that comes with it. I use it both for myself and for clients. And this one, it traveled with me. So as you can see, it's not exactly a summer deck, but there are some hues, you know, there are maybe some cards, maybe it's the gold, you know, flowers. I mean, it's not exactly a summer deck, so it's a little bit moody for that. But this is what I ended up using actually. And when you pair it with the Wildlands, so this pairing is with the Wildlands, you know, is at the same time light and a bit moody. And I couldn't imagine a better combination because together they read beautifully. Not only, but if you can see, the cards here are holographic and the, you know, these ones are too. So they're just those details. And together they read beautifully, as I was saying. And pairing the oracle with the tarot finally allowed me also to get the best out of the Wildlands, because I had a problem with this deck. Because up until now it felt a bit flat despite its beauty for me, and I wasn't really drawn to use it. But then when I finally found an oracle for it, I should say, I'm not someone who uses, you know, my decks daily or lets them get worn out. So I tend to keep them quite pristine, although of course I do use them. But the Glyphs really has definitely become a favorite of mine. I'd use it daily, you know. It's also quite sturdy, I had to say. So I don't see any sign of, you know, sometimes the cards like the borders, you know, the edges, like they chip very easily. You know, you can see the damage right away. And this one is quite, I would say, quite sturdy. So, but finally, as I was saying, I can get something out of the Wildlands in my readings because I pair it with the Glyphs. Look at this. It's so beautiful. And this one is so unique because the Wildlands has this like Polaroid shape, you know, Polaroid size also, and it's very unique. It also gives me like travel vibes, so for me it's a summer deck. There is also this Egyptian theme running through both the decks, and look at this. I mean, the shades are very similar. I mean, this is just a perfect pairing, and I've been enjoying these two together a lot. So this is the Glyphs Oracle, Sacred Symbols Oracle together with the Wildlands Tarot. And then we come to the 8th deck, the one that really has traveled with me this summer and that I ended up using more than I expected. I'm talking about the Sequitur Tarot, the Strawberry Edition by Tiana Saurus Hex. If you don't know her, you can explore her Instagram. So she created this deck and made it available. I think it's through Make Playing Cards, if I remember correctly. It's poker size almost. I don't know if it's exactly poker size, but and it comes with also some sign cards. This is the Strawberry Edition. For anyone who doesn't know it, it's also available in black and now also blue. So black and white, and also or white and blue is not exactly white, but there is a contrast, while in this version it's all pink and red. So I really loved this color combination when I first saw it, but I chose this one. I don't have the other, and it was super practical to carry around. It also gives me a summer feeling for the simple reason that it's pink and it's very bright. I did manage also when I was carrying it around to do like slightly damage the box, but I used it a lot for clients, for myself, and then for all kinds of readings. It's intuitive, it's cute, it reads very well, and I'm very happy with it. Honestly, didn't expect it to use it that much, but since I was traveling, this was like the perfect size. So I thought I would have used other decks, but plot twist, it was this one. So I used it for all kinds of readings. Of course, you may like, you know, this color combination or not, but for me personally, it was, you know, It was my vibe. It's also very original. I really love their presentations. So this is the Sequitur Tarot Strawberry Edition. The last two decks I want to mention are decks you probably already know, because I've shown on my channel the Seashell Oracle, which I have mentioned in many previous videos, and the Celestial Bodies Oracle is a new acquisition for me. It's very recent. I've used the Seashell not only last summer but all throughout the year. I even did a period of pulling a card a day to really get to know this deck. I always love the Seashell. It's now a 10 out of 10 for me. One of my favorite oracles now, probably along with the Glyphs I've just shown, you know. It's just amazing. And it's pure summer, you know. It's a summer oracle, but I use it all throughout the year. But I have to say, I brought the Celestial Oracle with me all along my travels. Even though it gives me the impression it will be more of an autumn deck. Look how beautiful. Just because of the palette here is different, and also the vibe. But so I use it all summer, and now it's ready to be paired also with my autumn decks. So this was a surprise because I didn't intend to use it during the summer, but actually when I say I used it, I mean I also used it alone for clients, like, and even for oracle only readings. And what I love, similar to the, you know, the Seashell, is the overall mood of the deck and the really spot on keywords. It's not exactly an astrology deck, because for me, as you can see, it's more than just an astrology deck. It's inspired by everything that has to do with celestial bodies. There's even an astronaut and an alien too. As you can see, there is an alien card. So it's definitely approved. I also like, you know, it gives also like this sort of, again, an ancient art energy, like something that I like, classic art, you know, is what I mean. Also for the alien card, you know, so it gives off this kind of, you know, classic art vibe I like and I really enjoy. A pleasant surprise, because I thought I'd leave it for later this year, but it's not been like that. So I already use it a lot, and I will continue using it because this is also an autumn deck for me. So I can picture myself, you know, continuing to use it more and more in the next season too. And this is the Celestial Bodies Oracle by Broccoli Magazine, of course. I forgot to say, but you probably know because these are quite popular now. So to wrap things up, it's funny because at the start of the summer I had all these plans. I thought I knew exactly which decks I would use. I pictured myself working with the Marea Tarot, also the Radiant Wilds, also the Serpentfire Tarot, maybe even the runners of the sun a little bit more. Also in the summer, decks that seemed like they were perfectly suited for the season, and I wanted to explore more during these months. But life, travel, mood, and simple intuition also had other plans. So some decks stayed on the shelf untouched, patiently waiting for their moment, like the Serpentfire, for example, and that's okay, or the Marea. Every deck has its time and place, and not everything goes according to your plans sometimes. So the decks that really traveled with me, that I reached for repeatedly, you know, were a mix of surprises and also unexpected favorites. For example, the Wildlands Tarot paired with the Glyphs Oracle also became a combination never expected but absolutely loved, and the Sequitur Tarot Strawberry Edition ended up being also practical, intuitive, and fun, and it went everywhere with me. And also the Seashell Oracle is such a huge favorite, but the Celestial Bodies also proved itself during the summer. It proved itself reliable, beautiful, and full of personality too, and perfect companions. And all these were perfect companions for both personal work and also client readings. So the lesson this summer, sometimes the decks you think you'll use aren't the ones that speak to you in the moment, and the ones you might have overlooked or underestimated and end up carrying you through the season. So in the end, the question, who made the cut? Yeah, I think all the decks, made the cut in a certain sense, because sometimes even if you don't physically shuffle or use a deck, there are some decks that really show up for you when the season, everything, the season, the troubles of the readings are aligned. And for me this summer, the list might have been different from what I expected. A little plot twist, a little surprise, but ultimately a very satisfying tarot journey with some also new decks and new acquisitions. Thank you for following along me today, for sharing this summer tarot story. And now I can't wait to dive into the autumn decks, but that's a story for another video. Until then, enjoy your readings, trust your intuition always, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.